Hello and welcome to the Football Man Cave chats with Daniel Nardiello. How you doing, Daniel? You all right?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries, and thank you for coming on. It's been I'm quite excited actually to talk to you, being a United fan, to sort of have a delve into 99 to sort of 2005 era, which was great. A lot better than it is now.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
So what are you up to at the minute,
So I retired from football professionally about 4 years ago. I played semi-pro for a few years whilst I was building up my business. Basically, I'm a financial advisor in wealth management. Basically, help people who look after their tax-efficient savings, investments, their pensions, pre- and post-retirement planning, and also the protection side and mortgages as well. So completely different to football, but it's something I've always been quite keen on, and looking at the markets and stuff like that. And it's something I really enjoy doing, albeit probably put on a couple of stones since I've retired.
Yeah, it is though. Like you said, it's a completely different scope to obviously being a football. Is that something, like you said, you've always been interested in, or was it more the back end of your career you got into it?
Well, there's a point in my career where I really took notice of my own finances. Is when I signed for QPR, and obviously a championship, good and better money than I'd ever been on. And basically some cowboy took a bit of advantage of me, and I ended up losing a little bit of money.
Right.
And I didn't even realise, didn't understand why. And from that point onwards, I took a keen interest in where my money was going, who was looking after it. And basically the guy that looked after me for many years said, why don't you come and join the team? And with the idea of running your own business, having your own client bank. And it's something that it was a real smooth transition for me from football to finance. And it was great. And like I said, I do enjoy it.
Perfect stuff. At least, like I said, you had a way out. A lot of footballers don't, do they, to sort of get to the end of their career and then they sort of stumbling around to find something. So
exactly,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think a lot of the lads do struggle, it's just because they haven't got a plan in place. And if you prepare that a few years earlier, as you come up to the age of 30, you don't have to do it too soon. But as long as you've got a plan in place, you should be okay.
Perfect stuff. Right, we're going to take you right back to the start of your career. We're going to test your memory on this one now. 1999, it says you signed as trainee for Manchester United. Briefly, how did that come about?
Well, I mean, I'm just in my last year of school, GCSEs, and I was obviously at Man United as a schoolboy. So I was at Man United before that, but obviously before I was at school and before it became full time. And it was just a case of around Christmas time, I had a contract offer from Manchester United, and for me, it was a no-brainer, wasn't it? I mean, I had a few clubs interested in me because I was quite talented as a young lad. I had quite a few interest in contract offers, but as soon as I was at Man United, I was happy there. And the second they offered a professional contract, it was a YTS with 3 years professionally. It was an absolute no-brainer, and I couldn't wait to get to Manchester.
And it was 99, so obviously we just won the treble at that point as well. So. Yeah. It was like obviously an absolutely brilliant time to sign, because the club was probably the biggest it had been at that time, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but the one thing I really remember about that was the first home game of the season. I mean, obviously we'd been in training for the pre-season a couple of months, but then the first home game of the season, I can't remember for the life of me who we were playing, but the Champions League music was playing as all the players were coming out, and it was like a proper welcome back to Manchester, all the players for the first Premier League game. And it's something, even though it's so long ago, that sticks in my mind. I was like, oh, this is the place to be, and it was magical almost. It was fantastic to be a part of it.
And what was it like being a youngster? How old were you again? Sorry, around there.
So just left school, so I was 16. It was my 17th birthday was in the October when I signed my professional contracts. But when I first went there, I was 16 as a pro.
So how was it being a 16, 17-year-old around the likes of obviously the treble winners, like in footballing terms? How much did that help you?
Do you know what? I've been asked these questions many times, but because I was so young and I didn't know any different, you just took it as it was. It was great because you were playing for Man United and it was a confidence boost, that kind of thing. But then you were like in and around the change room, the likes of Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, David Beckham's, all the big boys, all the big names. And I just took it in my stride. It was like it was normal because I didn't know any different. And I look back on it now and thinking it was phenomenal, to be a part of that and be, get a few games as I did. And yeah, but I didn't really appreciate it at the time. Whereas now I look back and think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I bet, because obviously as well you was kind of caught up in it all, weren't you? So it was just a case of riding the wave. Who was with you in your sort of year, sort of coming through to United at that time? What sort of names were they? So
in my actual age group, there was Alan Tate, who had a good career. He went on to Swansea and played all through the leagues with Swansea. Danny Pugh, who had a good career as well. They're probably the most successful. We had the likes of Danny Webber the year above us, and then Darren Fletcher the year below. But I mean, there was phenomenal talent in that squad, youth team squad, and some of the lads that didn't make it were probably some of the better players. And like I say, it was just great to be a part of it.
Yeah, I bet. And obviously, like I said, United again at that time, and always have been, just churning out youngsters of great quality, don't they, at all times. So sometimes you probably look and think he'll probably make it. And Darren Fletcher, obviously, coming through, he was like a stalwart at United for the next 10, 15 years, weren't he, as such?
Yeah.
So it's just one of them. So over the 5 years that you was at United, obviously you were on loan and such like. What was the aim for you personally? Was it to break into the first team, or was it a case of like, give me a couple of loan spells and then we'll sort of see where it goes and what happens from there?
So I mean, as a young lad, I was very confident in my own ability. I believed I could get into that squad and play games, and if I got my chance, try and take it. And I thoroughly thought that, if you're signing for Man United, obviously it's going to be tough. But if you go in there thinking I'll never play for the first team, you've got no chance. So you have to be confident, and that's one thing about football in general. If you haven't got confidence, there's no chance. You've got to believe in yourself and ignore the hype that you get, but also ignore the criticisms that you get and just have the confidence in your own ability. So for me, it was, I suppose, a little bit of arrogance as well. I knew I'd play in that first team. I didn't know I'd have a prolonged career at Manchester United or anything like that, but I knew I'd get a chance at some point. And luckily enough, I managed to play a handful of games. But what an experience! I mean, the lads that I train with on a regular basis, and I suppose one of the first questions you asked, I learnt a hell of a lot, and to have that kind of grounding and upbringing at a club like Manchester United with the players they had and the manager in Sir Alex Ferguson was second to none.
And probably a question that you've been asked up to about times is, how was Sir Alex Ferguson sort of playing under him?
Oh, he was a genius. I think it was phenomenal to play with him and work with him. And I still remember 3 or 4 times when he had like a one-on-one chat with me, whether it was in training or in the boot room after or before training. I mean, he gave me a bit of a rollicking as well after, I think it was Stoke. We played Stoke away in a pre-season friendly, and he went mad at me after the game. But, again, you take it in your stride. You've got to take it as it is. And he wanted the best for his players as well as for the club. But yeah, man management wise, brilliant. Tactically wise, brilliant. And it was a pleasure, even though I had a few games and many training sessions, to be fair. It was great to work underneath him.
And then how was the loan spells then? Going off the Wikipedia, you went Swansea and then you ended up Barnsley and sort of making that move permanent. When you went to them clubs, what was the feeling like? Just, did you sort of know you were coming back, or especially when you went to Barnsley, did you kind of know that you were going to move on? No,
not really. And I think for me, I wanted to go on loan a lot earlier. I think there was one stage where I knocked on the office with, and I think it might have been Carlos Queiroz at the time with Sir Alex, and they're both in there. And I said, look, I just want to go on loan. I want to go out and play. And he basically said, no, you can't go on loan. At the moment, you're my 4th choice striker should something happen. And back then, there was only 5 subs, as opposed to 7 now. And I used to travel to all these places, but never on the bench. And it kind of hampered me a little bit, because if there was 7 on the bench, I might have got on a little bit more. And he just wasn't willing to let me go on loan earlier, which is fair enough, because he had to think about if there was an injury or something like that. But when I went out on loan and got my chance, it was just a chance to, get out there, get the experience, score some goals, and almost prove myself, that I could be worthy of a place on the bench or something when I do go back to United. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. But like you said, I moved on to Barnsley, where I had 2 successful loan spells, and it was just the start of my first team football career, because I was 22 years old. I'd been at United for 6 years, and it was about time I moved on. Fergie was actually very kind when he brought me into the office towards the end of that last season. He said, look, I could give you another year contract, but I just think it's probably better you go out and play first team football. You've got a few clubs that are interested in you that have phoned up about me, and I do think he was being kind and said I'll give you another year, but it was another confidence boost that he wanted me to go out there and be successful.
Yeah, well, I'd say is speaking to football as well, they always appreciate the honesty from a manager, which obviously holds them in good stead. Who was your competition at that point?
So there was a few. There was like I said earlier.
You played as a winger as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so I played. I didn't like playing as a winger, but a lot of managers fancied me on the left wing for some. I mean, I was right-footed, but I was good on both sides, and I could cut in and go either side, so I could play that role. But ultimately, I wanted to play up front. But like I say, a lot of managers did like me on the wing, but I probably played half my career on the wing. But in terms of competition, I think like there was talent coming from all areas at United. Like you had Danny Webber and Jimmy Davis the year above me. When I first got there was Healy and Alex Notman, who were a few years ahead, and obviously they were on the fringes of the first team. Then you had players coming up from behind as well. You had the likes of Eddie Johnson, Colin Heath, players that, Mads Tim was another great attacking talent. There was just players in all positions of real quality. But I never worried about that. I always just concentrated on myself, and if I didn't get picked for a reserve game, for example, I used to be annoyed thinking I should be playing every game. So, and like I say, you've got to be confident as a football lad. But talent-wise, even today, you can see that there's a reason why so many players come through at United is because they do get the best talent from globally now. Yeah,
100%. So I say you went Barnsley, you had a couple of spells, you went to Blackpool, and then I seen you went over to Bury. And I was reading on your Wikipedia page, obviously doing some sort of research before this, and it said obviously you scored in your debut for Bury, and then there was an incident about a puddle, which really made me chuckle. It added it in. Kasper Schmeichel ended up saving it. Just talk us through what was that like?
It was yeah. I mean, going to bed, I think I was injured at the time, so I had to go on. I was at Blackpool, I think, and I had to go on loan to get my match fitness back up. So Ian Holloway sent me out on loan to get some fitness, and Bury, living in the Manchester area, was perfect. Anyway, we're playing Notts County first game that was there, and to be fair, I scored a goal, done really well, and then I think it might have still been the first half. It would have been my second goal. I've got the ball on the halfway line. I've literally taken it past 3 or 4 players. I'm one-on-one with Kasper Schmeichel. I've slotted it past him perfectly. I'm off celebrating, but there's a massive puddle in the middle of literally half a yard off the goal line, and he just gets stuck in this massive puddle, and I'm off there celebrating. Kasper Schmeichel, you can see him on film laughing his head off and smiling, and it's just one of them things. It actually made it onto What Happens Next on what's that show? Oh, the sports quiz.
Question of Sport.
Question of Sport. It made it like, when they said What Happens Next, it made it onto that a few years back. My cousin texted me saying, you're on the TV, quickly flick it over. So yeah, it was one of them things. But luckily, I scored that game, and I suppose they ended up being 3-3. So it was a pretty entertaining game. And obviously, as you can imagine, the weather was horrendous, but it's things.
Always is up here as well, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it like? Could you sort of tell, obviously playing against Kasper Schmeichel at that age, could you sort of tell anything that he'd go on to be much, obviously the career he had, or could you see something that you sort of seen in his dad at that point, obviously that brief match?
Well, he actually came into United when I was at United at one stage, and he must have been 14, maybe even 15, and I was like 18, 19, that kind of age difference. But he actually trained, and you could see that he had a bit at a young age, 14, 15, whatever he was. But yeah, I think you could. I think at the time Notts County were paying big wages. I think Sol Campbell went there. Sven-Göran Eriksson was the manager at the time. He was in the stands, and they were the money they were paying players. It was obvious that he was better than that. I think was it League One? Can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe even League Two. But he was a lot better than that level. But to see what he's achieved is phenomenal. But I think obviously he's got good genes, hasn't he? So
yeah, it is. It's uncanny, isn't it? So so we went to Bury. you made a great impression, and then you moved to. Oh, you had a brief spell at Oldham, and I say brief, really brief. What happened with that?
Well, as I mentioned there earlier, this was a period in my career where I had a lot of injuries, and I just, no matter what I did, I couldn't stay fit. I used to get fit, break down, get fit, need an operation, get fit, break down, and need another operation. And it was almost at a stage where I was going to retire from football at the age of 25, 26. Right. It was a nightmare, and that was just another one of them occasions. I've got back fit. My parent club, I think again, might have been Blackpool in the Championship, and they've sent me on loan, obviously to get game time. And again, I played one game. I think we played an away game somewhere. Can't remember who it was. And the next game was on the Tuesday night, so I played Saturday, Tuesday. And after 20 minutes, I've just literally ruptured my hamstring. And I was out for another 2 months because, that was my main issue, my lower back and hamstring problems, which kept on causing me problem after problem. So it was just another one of them things that, another injury that I had that, hampered my time at Oldham. But, it was a great little club. It was a great pitch when I was there at the time. Not so great now when I played there a few months back. But, yeah, I'd have liked to have, extended my stay if that was possible.
Yeah, definitely. And then we went Exeter City, Rotherham United, and then back to Bury, where we ended up making 60 appearances and 21 goals. How was that time? It was 2013, so who was the manager at that time, and what league were he in, and where were they at a little bit, Barry?
So I think initially I was at Rotherham, and we got promoted, and then I played 10 or 11 games for Rotherham that season, and then scored a few goals, but the manager wanted me out at Rotherham for some reason. I think probably because of my age, he liked younger players and coming through, and I was getting on towards the end of my career. And obviously Bury came in, and I was like, I live in Bury now because that's where my wife was from, and we settled there. So it's around the corner from Bury, I should say. And it was like a no-brainer, get myself there. I think it was Ronnie Jepson was the manager, interim manager, and it was just a case of coming in on loan. He actually got sacked after about 3 or 4 games, and Flitcroft came in. Flitcroft wanted to sign me permanently, to which I thought, Rotherham didn't want me, stayed local to home. They're offering me a 2-year contract. The new chairman come in. They were trying to pump in a bit of money to the club, look for promotion, if not that year, the following year, because it was around Christmas time I came on loan. And to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. It was another club that were looking to get promotion. And the following season, when we had a start, Flitcroft had a fresh start, brought in a lot of good talent, and we managed to get that promotion. And it was a good, successful season with a great set of lads.
What was it a highlight of your career with Bury? Because I know you had a couple of promotions from what I've read. How did that sort of compare at that time?
Yeah, I think you always have fond memories of the clubs you gain promotion from. So, I gained promotion 4 times. Once with Bury, once with Rotherham, once with Barnsley, and once with Blackpool. Blackpool was a bit bittersweet because I could barely keep fit and I only played a handful of games in the Championship, but I was still part of the squad that got promoted to the Premier League, which was great to be a part of. Rotherham and Barnsley, I had really successful seasons with them when they got promoted. I think Rotherham I got 20 plus goals. Barnsley, I had a good second half of the season, managed to score in the playoff final and get promoted. And then, like you say, with Bury, it was a great season. I think I did finish top goal scorer. I got 17, 18 goals, something like that. And it was a great squad to be a part of. It was a good atmosphere in the changing room. And it's hard not to enjoy seasons when you get promoted. So as far as a highlight, absolutely, Bury was definitely a highlight. And obviously living in the local area as well, it added a little extra as well.
Yeah, definitely. So was you sort of coming to the end of your career at Bury?
The first spell I was younger, because it was only a loan spell, wasn't it? It was 6 games maybe. Whereas the second spell, I think it was my last real professional club. And I retired from full-time professional football after Bury. I had a couple of offers, but I think at the age I was 32, 33, I didn't want to be moving halfway around the country when I got a wife, kids. It wasn't I didn't want to chase the dream anymore, which is why I started to play semi-pro and work and build my business. But Yeah, so Bury was my last club, and unfortunately, obviously, what's happened with them, it's been pretty sad for the fans.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, over this past sort of 2 or 3 years, you can't. I don't think you could ever script it, could you? Really, like what exactly is happening? It doesn't feel like it's real life.
It's strange because I think as a player, and like I mentioned earlier, they were paying big wages to players, and the season we got promoted, it was a no-brainer. If we hadn't got promoted, it would have been horrendous. We had the ability in the squad to easily get not easily, because it's not easy to get promoted, but you know what I mean. We had the ability there, and we fully expected to get promoted. Obviously, we had the Man City training ground, or the old Man City training ground, where we were training daily, which was unheard of for League 2, League 1 clubs. It was a phenomenal place to train every day. And I just think, the club overcommitted in certain areas where they were living beyond their means, and unfortunately, well, we all know what's happened now, and it's heartbreaking almost, but it is heartbreaking especially for the fans, because you've got fans. I was speaking to a fan he's circa 55 years old, and he said he went with his granddad, his dad, his sons, his grandkids, and they went home and away for 9 months of the year every year for the last 30 years. It's like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah. And
when you think of it like that, it's their passion, and then it's just taken away from them. It's really tough for some fans to take, and I can totally understand why.
Yeah, it is, and I feel like everybody's just a small taste of what Bury fans are going through, obviously through this COVID situation at the minute. And for me, I've sort of obviously look around on Twitter and the social media and stuff like that, and there just doesn't seem to be sort of much light at the end of the tunnel for them, really, is there, at the minute? You can sort of see the Phoenix Club coming through, but I don't really know, obviously, what with that.
Who knows where it's going to go? And you keep on hearing reports that Bury will be back, and the chairman there is trying to do this and trying to do that, but I think it's just false promises from certain people, and this Phoenix Club to me looks like the most realistic way of getting a club in Bury going. But I mean, again, with what's happened with coronavirus, clubs are struggling. We don't know when seasons are going to start. We don't know if gate receipts are going to be able to be made and stuff like that. It's a really uncertain time in the football world, let alone for a club that's gone out of business and they're looking to create a new club elsewhere. It's hard to see how and where it's gonna go from here.
100%. So, taking you back to that promotion season, what players were in that team at the time?
So there was, Ryan Lowe. We had part of that squad. We had 4 really good strikers. So there was me, blowing my own trumpet a bit there, but for the level League 2 we were in, real good quality strikers. There was myself, Ryan Lowe, Rosie, and Hallam Hope, and the 4 of us. We all had different qualities in different areas. There was obviously the experience of me and Lowie as well, because we were the older heads, and then you had the youth, the talent, the energy of Hopi and Rosie. So 4 quality strikers. You had, the left side, how they were playing League 2 football, I do not know. And Danny Mayer and Chris Hussey, it was them 2 working together were phenomenal. You had Kelvin Atuhu, Tom Saws, Craig Jones, who could play right back, right wing. Nicky Adams, what a player he is. I love playing with Nicky Adams. He got assists left, right and centre. And then you obviously had Tom Pope in goal. Not Tom Pope, Nick Pope in goal. Who's obviously gone on to play for England. So the squad and players we had defensively, we were solid. Like I say, it was for us. It was, for me anyway. If we hadn't got promoted, it would have been a shock.
Could you see Ryan Lowe at that point becoming a manager? Because obviously 6-7 years later, as such, it takes over Bury and again earns promotion with Danny Mayer and Nicky Adams. So could you see any of that in him at that time?
Do you know what? If you'd have asked me at the beginning of that season, would I've seen Lowy as a coach? No, but he started to take a few shooting sessions and that kind of thing. And they were great shooting sessions, and he's obviously a attack-minded player. And when I've gone and watched the teams that he now manages play, when I've watched them play, you can see that it's the attacking mentality, the philosophy that he's got in, we'll attack teams, we'll stay solid, but we will attack teams. And you can see that at Plymouth, you can see that at Bury when he was the manager there. I think he's done a lot of studying. He's done a lot of research. He's gone to Liverpool to speak to Klopp and watch them train. And he's put his heart and soul into it, and he's had 2 promotions already, which is phenomenal. So I think fair play to him. I think if he's done that already at the very start of his career, if he continues to have the attitude that he has, which he will do, continue to learn, continue to get better, I mean, who knows where he could end up? He could be a top manager.
Yes. When I watched Bury, obviously their last season, to watch them was brilliant. Some of the football that they used to play was for League Two, and you see that it's sort of like for League Two, but the standard of football was so good down there. It's just a shame what happened after it happened, because I really do think League One, they would have fared with a couple of additional signings pretty well.
100%. I don't disagree, and like with him, with him as the manager, with the players he already had, with a couple of additions, like you say, who knows where Bury could have gone? Because I mean, it's not a huge fan base, but there was enough there to generate something that's worth, potentially pushing for promotion to even to the Championship.
Did the thought of management ever cross your mind?
No. I did my badges, and I did a bit of coaching, but being brutally honest, it just wasn't for me. I don't think I was tactically aware enough to be a manager. I just wanted to go out and play and attack. There was no, like I say, no tactical awareness from myself. Even as a player, I used to listen to my managers, what they wanted me to do. I like my managers to tell me exactly what they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
How they wanted me to play, how the team wanted to play, and I didn't want to work with young footballers either. As a coach, there's some difficult characters in football, and I'm not the most patient. So, not that all managers are patient. I played for some hotheads, but for me, it wasn't for me. And there's no job security either. So I don't want to be, looking for a job constantly, worried about getting sacked. And there's so many coaches for so many limited roles. So I wanted to get something completely outside of football where I could still work with football lads, because I've got a lot of lads that are my clients now who help with their investment strategy and looking after their future. But I'm okay doing it on that level, whereas coaching, unfortunately, no, it just wasn't for me.
Good stuff. Right, do you know what, Daniel? It's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully, we can get back to some normality pretty soon. Hopefully, we'll see some sort of Bury. We never know. But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on, mate.
No, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Cheers. Thank you.